Let me ask you something. When you think about aging, what comes to mind? Gray hair, wrinkles, slowing down? Those are the visible signs, sure. But what if I told you that aging isn't really happening on your skin or in your joints? What if I told you that aging is happening inside your cells, in your DNA, at a level so small and so profound that most people never even think about it? And what if I told you that this invisible process, the one that's been running quietly in the background of your life for decades, can be interrupted, slowed down, even reversed? This is where things get fascinating, because the Stanford study we talked about last time wasn't just about people feeling better or losing weight. It was about something much deeper. It was about the mechanism, the molecular, cellular, genetic process by which food literally reprograms your body to be younger. And once you understand this mechanism, you'll never look at a meal the same way again. So let's start at the beginning. Inside every single one of your cells, coiled up like an instruction manual, is your DNA. Your DNA contains all the information your body needs to function: how to build proteins, how to repair damage, how to respond to threats. But here's the thing, not all of that information is being used at the same time. Some genes are turned on, actively doing their job. Others are turned off, sitting dormant. And the process that controls which genes are on and which are off, that's called epigenetics. Think of your DNA as a piano. The keys are always there, but which keys get played and when depends on the pianist. Epigenetics is the pianist. And one of the most important tools the pianist uses is something called methylation. Methylation is a chemical process where small molecules called methyl groups attach to your DNA, essentially marking certain genes as read this or don't read this. When you're young, your methylation patterns are clean, organized, efficient. But as you age, those patterns get messy. Methyl groups accumulate in the wrong places. Genes that should be on get turned off, genes that should be off get turned on, and your body starts to malfunction. This is aging at the molecular level. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists have developed something called epigenetic clocks. These are tools that can measure the methylation patterns in your DNA and tell you not just how many birthdays you've had, but how old your body actually is. Because biological age and chronological age are not the same thing. You might be 50 on paper, but your cells could be 60. Or, if you're lucky, they could be 40. Your epigenetic clock is the true age of your body. And the good news? You can reprogram it with what you eat. The Stanford study used these epigenetic clocks to measure the participants before and after the 8-week dietary intervention. And what they found was stunning. The vegan twins showed a measurable reduction in harmful methylation. Their biological age had decreased. Their DNA looked younger. But how? How does eating plants change the way your genes are expressed? This is where the science gets beautiful, because food isn't just fuel. Food is information. Every bite you take sends signals to your cells, and those signals can either promote health or accelerate disease. Plant-based foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains are packed with compounds called phytonutrients, polyphenols, flavonoids, carotenoids. These aren't just fancy words. They're molecules with extraordinary power. They act as antioxidants, neutralizing the free radicals that damage your DNA. They act as anti-inflammatory agents, calming the chronic inflammation that drives aging. And they act as epigenetic modifiers, literally altering the way your genes are expressed. Let me give you a concrete example. There's a compound found in broccoli, kale, and other cruciferous vegetables called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane activates a gene called NRF2, which is like your body's master detoxifier.
When NRF2 is turned on, it ramps up the production of antioxidant enzymes,
protects your cells from oxidative stress, and even helps repair damaged DNA. But here's the kicker. NRF2 doesn't turn itself on. It needs a signal. And that signal comes from the food you eat. If you're not eating cruciferous vegetables, you're not activating NRF2. And if you're not activating NRF2, your cells are aging faster than they need to. Or take resveratrol, a compound found in grapes, berries, and red wine. Resveratrol activates a family of genes called Sirtuins, which are often called the longevity genes because they regulate cellular aging, DNA repair, and inflammation. Sirtuins are like the maintenance crew in your body, constantly fixing what's broken and keeping everything running smoothly. But they need fuel to do their job, and that fuel comes from plant compounds like resveratrol. And then there's curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, that golden spice that's been used for thousands of years in traditional medicine. Curcumin is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory compounds found in nature. It inhibits inflammatory pathways at the genetic level, reducing the chronic inflammation that accelerates aging and disease. Studies have shown that curcumin can cross the blood-brain barrier, protecting against cognitive decline and neurodegenerative diseases. It's been researched extensively at institutions like Johns Hopkins and Harvard, and the findings are remarkable. Nature has given us multiple pathways to rejuvenation: sulforaphane from cruciferous vegetables, resveratrol from berries and grapes, curcumin from turmeric. Each one works through different mechanisms, but they all point to the same truth. Plants have the power to reprogram your biology. This is what's happening at the cellular level when you eat a plant-based diet. You're not just filling your stomach, you're sending instructions to your DNA. You're telling your cells to repair instead of decay. You're activating pathways that have been dormant, maybe for years. You're giving your body the tools it needs to do what it's always wanted to do: heal. Now let's talk about inflammation, because this is where a lot of aging actually happens. Chronic inflammation is like a slow-burning fire inside your body. It damages your arteries, leading to heart disease. It interferes with insulin signaling, leading to diabetes. It disrupts your immune system, making you more vulnerable to infections and even cancer. And where does this inflammation come from? A lot of it comes from the food you eat. Animal products, meat, dairy, eggs, contain high levels of saturated fat and compounds like Neur5G, which your immune system recognizes as foreign and attacks, triggering inflammation. Processed foods are loaded with refined sugars and trans fats, which spike your blood sugar and create oxidative stress. Over time, this constant inflammatory assault wears your body down. Your cells age faster, your organs deteriorate, your biological clock speeds up. But plant-based foods, they do the opposite. They're naturally anti-inflammatory. They're rich in fiber, which feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. And those bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation throughout your entire body. They're loaded with omega-3 fatty acids from sources like flax seeds and walnuts, which actively calm inflammatory pathways. They're full of antioxidants that neutralize the oxidative stress that fuels inflammation. Eating plants isn't just neutral. It's actively healing. And this brings us to something that I think is profound. Your body is not your enemy. It's not trying to aid you. It's not trying to break down. In fact, your body has an incredible capacity for repair and regeneration. Every moment of every day, your cells are working to fix damage, clear out toxins, and maintain balance. But they can only work with the materials you give them. If you give your body inflammatory, processed, nutrient-poor foods, it does the best it can, but it's building a house with rotten wood. If you give your body whole, plant-based, nutrient-dense foods, it can build something strong, something resilient, something that lasts.
The Stanford study is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Harvard researchers have found that people who eat more plant-based foods have lower rates of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. The Mayo Clinic has published studies showing that plant-based diets improve cardiovascular health and metabolic function. Johns Hopkins has documented the cognitive benefits of plant-rich diets, showing that they protect against dementia and cognitive decline. This isn't fringe science. This is mainstream, peer-reviewed, institutionally backed research. The evidence is overwhelming. But here's what really moves me. It's not just about the data. It's about the people. I've talked to individuals who were told by their doctors that they needed medication for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and they decided to try a plant-based diet first. And within weeks, sometimes within days, their numbers improved, their symptoms reversed. They got off medications they thought they'd be on for life. This isn't a miracle. This is the body doing what it was designed to do when you give it the right conditions. And yet there's so much resistance, so much confusion, so much noise. The food industry spends billions of dollars every year convincing you that you need meat for protein, dairy for calcium, eggs for nutrition. They fund studies that muddy the waters. They create doubt where there shouldn't be any. Because the truth is inconvenient. The truth is that a whole food, plant-based diet is the single most powerful intervention you can make for your health. And that truth threatens a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So let me be clear. Our goal here isn't to sell you supplements or the latest diet fad. It's to give you the pure scientific truth that the industry spends billions trying to hide. This isn't about moralizing. This isn't about shaming anyone. This is about giving you information that you deserve to have. Information that could change your life. Because here's the thing. You have more control than you think. You might not be able to control your genetics. You might not be able to control your age. But you can control what you put on your plate. And that choice, repeated 3 times a day, every day, has the power to reshape your biology. I want you to imagine something. Imagine your cells as a city, a bustling, complex city with roads, power lines, workers, infrastructure. When you're young, everything runs smoothly. The roads are clear, the power is on, the workers are efficient. But as you age, things start to break down. Roads get clogged, power lines fail, workers get tired. The city starts to crumble. That's what chronic disease and aging look like at the cellular level. But now imagine that you have the power to send in a repair crew, a team of skilled workers with the tools and materials they need to fix everything, to clear the roads, restore the power, rebuild the infrastructure. That repair crew is the phytonutrients, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds in plant foods. They're not just preventing damage, they're actively repairing it. And this is why the Stanford study matters so much, because it showed that this repair can happen quickly. 8 weeks. That's all it took to see measurable changes in DNA methylation, inflammation, and biological age. 8 weeks to prove that your body is capable of remarkable transformation when you give it what it needs. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what about protein? What about B12? What about iron? These are valid questions, and the answer is simpler than you think. You can get all the protein you need from beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, quinoa, nuts, and seeds. You can get B12 from fortified foods or a simple supplement.
You can get iron from leafy greens, legumes, and whole grains. And when you pair them with vitamin C-rich foods, your body absorbs that iron even better. The idea that you need animal products to be healthy is a myth perpetuated by industries with something to sell. But let's talk about what's really at stake here. Because this isn't just about living longer. It's about living better. It's about waking up with energy,
instead of dragging yourself out of bed. It's about moving through your day with clarity instead of brain fog. It's about feeling strong, capable, alive. That's what the participants in the Stanford study reported. Not just improved lab values, but improved lives. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough: the emotional impact of aging. The fear, the sadness, the feeling that your best years are behind you. I've talked to so many people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who feel like they're losing themselves, like they're becoming a shadow of who they used to be. And they think it's just part of getting older, but it's not. So much of what we attribute to aging is actually the result of poor diet, chronic inflammation, and cellular damage. And those things are not inevitable. They're reversible. So here's my question for you. If you could turn back the clock, not just in how you look, but in how you feel, how you function, how you experience life, would you do it? Would you be willing to change what you eat for 8 weeks to see if it's possible? Because the science says it is. The data says it is. The people who've done it say it is. The only question is, are you willing to try? Now that you understand the science behind rejuvenation, what happens when we live the opposite way? In the next video, we'll expose the real enemy of longevity, the everyday foods silently aging you faster.